Hello and welcome back to the All Out Brits podcast, the podcast where we send the house on all things NFL from across the seas here in sunny old England. And I tell you what, our introduction's been ruined, Elliot, because there's been no NFL games this week. There's been nothing going on apart from the fact it's the lead up to the Super Bowl. It's where all roads have led to. It's the final game. We're going to become useless after tomorrow evening. But you know what? We're always here to talk about it, and we're always here to have fun with it. And as always, to discuss everything going into the Super Bowl, discuss all the anxieties and excitement, is the main man, Mr. Elliot Greenwood. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, mate. You said we were going to be useless after the Super Bowl. I think we were very, very useless before the Super Bowl as well. But we've learnt a lot this season, haven't we, Taz?
Yeah.
We've learnt a lot about the league, a lot about different players, about different teams. And I think this Super Bowl is going to be a really, really exciting one. And it is a really unique Super Bowl. You've got a man in Patrick Mahomes who is on a massive contract, getting paid $53,000 per pass attempt that he makes. And then Brock Purdy, who's on a tiny contract, getting paid $50,000 per game. So it's not been a bigger mismatch in forever, I don't think. Yeah. And it's one that is going to be really, really exciting. And I cannot wait for Sunday. So we're having a little Super Bowl party, aren't we?
We are.
Good vibes.
I know I'm panicking a little bit. I think the nerves, the anxiety is slowly creeping in. I just don't want to lose again. I just can't be dealing with this. It's the last thing I want at this point.
You've took a lot of L's recently, haven't you, Taz? On and off the pitch. So it's now time for your Niners to back you up and you need to put your faith in them, because it's one team's got to win it, and you've got there, haven't you? So
that's very true. And I think the big thing is everyone seems to be supporting the Chiefs, even though they've been absolutely woeful in terms of their own standards this season. Somehow they're still the favourites again. And I think that just shows how good Mr. Patrick Mahomes is and how good Mr. Travis Kelce is, because it's been quite a forgettable season for everybody else, really, outside of that. Maybe you include Isaiah Pacheco into those three, but it really has been a tough season for the Chiefs. And for them to be at this point, you know, not many people would have expected it until it got to the later rounds of the season. But now that they're here, you can't count them out whatsoever. Where do you sort of see this game going before we sort of go deep into the preparation of it? In your mind right now, how do you think it's actually going to go in the end?
We spoke a lot about the Chiefs this season and how they've been very, very up and down. And one week they look unbelievable, the next they look really, really mid. But one thing I would say is a lot of people have doubted Patrick Mahomes this season for the first time in a long, long time. People have started asking questions about him. But once again, he's made it to another Super Bowl. And it's a Super Bowl that if he wins it, gets his third Super Bowl, he's knocking on the door of Tom Brady. We've spoke about that before as well, but he is knocking on the door and could be bashing it down. We will see. But I think it really, this season for the Chiefs has been massive in terms of their defense. And I think they've had to rely on the defense a little bit more than the offense. We've seen a lot of mistakes made on offense with the receivers. Obviously, Mahomes has been playing around with a lot of young, talented guys. But they're not there yet. They're a couple years away. Rishi Rice has shown flurries at sort of the back end of the season, and he's now starting to look a little bit more exciting. But Tony, obviously, has been terrible. Travis Kelce's only sort of come good towards the back end of the season. But I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see how those players and how Mahomes uses his talents and see how much he has to rely on his defense in a game where Kyle Shanahan is going to scheme an absolute masterclass. So it's going to be really exciting. And I can't wait to watch it with you, Taryn. I can't.
I can wait. I don't want it to happen, mate, because I know exactly every single play, every single pass and incompletion is just going to have you barking in my ear. So I'm not looking forward to when it comes to that, pal.
Woof, woof, mate. You know I'm going to be there chirping away. But do you remember it was a couple of years ago when it was the playoff game between the Cowboys and the Niners, and you were there, you were just shouting, you didn't shut up for like every single interception. You went, he's done it again, he's thrown another pick, he knows what he does. But no, it's going to be different this time. It's going to be Brock Purdy, and it's going to be lots of slander about how he just hands the ball to CMC. But it's going to be a really good game. Definitely a really good game. And one I think you will enjoy in phases. In other times you won't.
I'm hoping so. But I think the point that you mentioned there, handing it over to CMC, that's what Shanahan needs to do. Like you said, sort of scheming up a master plan. But I look back at sort of the Niners' time, going back to the last Super Bowl they were in against the Chiefs. When you look at the fact that they were in the fourth, 10 points up, and you'd have thought this was going to the Niners. But again, when you overcomplicate things, when you sort of change from your styles, it can have sort of its own repercussions. Obviously, wasn't great from Jimmy in that Super Bowl whatsoever. Quite a few missed opportunities. But at the same time, is the Niners have an identity. They've had an identity all season. And I think the games they've struggled in are the games where they've strayed away from that identity. I think this week, the amount of Brock Purdy videos I've seen from sort of him last season when he came in as a starter and when he was really finding himself, especially against the Bucs in that first starter game he had. But the sort of schemes and the plays were play action passes and there were a lot more sort of on the move plays, and they did trust him to sort of extend it. But now this season we've seen a lot more plays in the pocket or a lot of sort of shotgun passes, and they seem to be the plays where Purdy isn't as comfortable and plays where he can't extend them as much. The players can't extend them as much, and that seems to be a downfall of the Niners at the moment. And like you said, if they stray from that, it could be a really difficult day because this Chiefs defense, like you mentioned, they've been on fire recently. They've really helped their offense out. And the Niners would have an absolute day on the ball and off it as well, because otherwise they're going to be in deep, deep trouble. But I think the big thing is trusting the game plan. And I hope Shanahan just does that and plays to their strengths in the end.
And I think he will do. And obviously you mentioned Jimmy G, and you love Garoppolo himself.
Garoppolo.
You love the man, but I think we can both agree that Brock Purdy is definitely an upgrade in the quarterback position, is he not?
Yeah, he is.
Maybe not in the looks. He's looking more like Anna Frey, but I think as a quarterback and as a player, Brock Purdy is him a little bit more than Garoppolo was.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, I think, how do you scheme this Super Bowl is the question that I'm going to ask. It's really, really complicated in my opinion.
Yeah.
The Chiefs, on defense, do they stray away what they've been doing really well and kind of try and combat what the Niners are doing negatively in terms of if you shut down that run game, you're stopping Brock Purdy a little bit more? Or do they keep to doing what they do and kind of blitzing the quarterback? Now, the Kansas City Chiefs love a blitz. I think their success rate when they blitz on defense is the third best in the entire league, which is an absolutely fantastic. Obviously, they've got some elite pass rushers in Jones on that D line, but on the flip side of that, Brock Purdy is absolutely elite against the rush, against that blitz pressure. He's first in yards per attempt when being blitzed. He's first in his touchdown to interception ratio, throwing 15-2. He's got a first passer rating in the league when he's being blitzed, and first in EPA, second in completion percentage. He is elite with pressure in his face. Now, why is that? You've got to look. Well, he throws the ball 5 yards away to Deebo Samuel, then runs it to the house. So then do you play man coverage against Deebo? But he's quick and he's speedy and he can get past you. And then you've got a big wide out on the other side in Brandon Ayuk, who you just know is going to make some sort of stupid play with 2 fingers in between his arsehole, and then he's going to juggle an interception and somehow take it for a touchdown. You know that play's going to come at some point. So how, as a Chiefs team and an organization, do you scheme to play the most explosive offense in the last few weeks and one of the most explosive offense that we've seen all season long? I think it's going to be a really intriguing game, and one that I think coaching is going to have more of an impact on than 100%. I think a lot of people have been talking about, really. It's all been Mahomes, Kelsey, Taylor Swift, Purdy, CMC. It's going to be Andy Reid and Kyle Shanahan at the end of the day, and those two are going to have an absolute face-off.
Yeah, and I think the other interesting thing is if you look at the fact that the Chiefs actually played probably their best game when it came on defense against the Ravens that they needed to. And when you look at the tape then, that probably works better in the Niners' favor because they're able to see the best Chiefs defense at their best, how they perform, what they do, the coverages, the plays, the personnel. Whereas they're looking at this Niners D and looking at the personnel and the way they played against the Lions and thinking, well, we know this isn't how the Niners D can play, but that's what we can really run off because they were absolutely awful. So in some sense, maybe that makes it a bit more difficult for Kansas on the sort of offense side of it. But as you mentioned that, the offense was not firing whatsoever when it came to the Packers game, really, or even the Lions game. So in recent memory, that Niners team hasn't clicked, but still managed to get points on the board and win games whereas the Chiefs have had to click and got points on the board in one game. So, like you said, it's a fine balance. And I think the big thing is going to be experience. We talked about it when it came to the championship games. Experience won both of those games. And I think this is going to be the exact same thing. And that is why the Chiefs have the edge, because they know how to win. We saw it when they played the Eagles last year, and we were sat together watching it. And I could not believe the fact that how incredible Hurts and the Eagles had been. Absolutely incredible. But it didn't seem like the Chiefs were any much better. They just seemed to be equaling it. They weren't better. They were just smarter with it. And obviously look at the last play of the game and that last sort of drive that Chiefs had. You know, that's ball control. That's big parts. It doesn't matter if you put 38 points or whatever, 35 points against us. We can go down the field, hold the ball for 4 minutes and run the clock and go and walk out with a field goal. So that's smart football. And that's football that the Niners need to be privy to. But I'm sure the Chiefs are going to know the best way to deal with it in the Super Bowl because of how many times they've been there in recent years.
Absolutely. But one thing about this Chiefs team, it isn't the same as the Chiefs team that we saw last year. And the Niners as well, they've got that dogged determination that we haven't seen for a long, long time from this team. They've got that never die, never give up attitude. You saw in the NFC Championship game, the last game that they played, obviously, how they went into the locker room after being absolutely pounded on both sides of the ball. And they completely turned it around, completely flipped the switch. And somehow Brock and Kyle Shanahan managed to get that team over the line, absolutely dragging them to the Super Bowl. Now, that Chiefs team is going to have to factor that in. They started so elite and so high tempo against the Baltimore Ravens. But then ultimately, the Ravens D made adjustments. They made those kind of changes on the defensive side of the ball, and it slowed them down. Now, what Andy Reid needs to do is be really, really, really proactive this game and think, Kyle's going to do this if I show him that. He's going to do this when I do this. And he's got to be on top of the game all the time, because the last few Super Bowls have been really high scoring. Now, these are two teams who rely a little bit on the defenses more than previous Super Bowls, I would say. So I think there's going to be a lot of points on the board, but I also don't. I think it's going to be a defensive matchup, to be honest with you, mate. I think the defense is going to play more of a role in this than the offenses. And I think it's going to be really interesting. Like I said, it's a difficult game to scheme, but one that's going to be really, really intriguing to watch.
Yeah, and I think we've already talked about the fact that there's outside factors that are already playing into this Super Bowl. And we've seen quite a few outside factors already, which I think it's worth mentioning, mate, because there's been some dodgy stuff going on so far. I think the big news story this week that's come out of both camps is that the 49ers have had a rough sort of training period. They've given sort of lesser facilities, spongy pitches they were complaining about, whereas the Chiefs had a top elite facilities used by the Raiders and things like that. And then also they stayed in completely different hotels, but one had an alarm pulled, which meant that the players had to get up in the Niners hotel, whilst the Chiefs were nice and sort of tucked up in bed. What do you think that hits at? We've seen it in football. We've seen it with Pizzagate. We've seen it between every single game. There's fireworks blasted around everywhere. But in the Super Bowl, on the big stage, do you think that plays into the mind of any of these players that you're getting woke up at 6 o'clock and it's not by a beautiful woman? It's by some woman telling you your house is on fire. Like, that's not what you want when you're going into a Super Bowl on the weekend, surely.
It's not. You're going to relax, rested. And obviously in Vegas, there's all these different temptations. Maybe it was an exotic woman waking them up. We don't know. We just heard it was an alarm that was going off. Now, was it a Chiefs fan who ran in singing Shake It Off? We don't know these things. But it will be really, really interesting to find out. Now, one thing that we have seen is how favorited the Chiefs are in terms of how much the NFL would love the Kansas City Chiefs to win another Super Bowl. I think we all know that secretly Roger Goodell is loving that Taylor Swift has got involved in the sport. He's loving all the attention that he's brought, that she's brought to the game, and also all the money that she's brought to the game. Now, for her to finish, well, I say her, the Chiefs to finish what has been a fantastic season for them with a Super Bowl win, I think Roger Goodell will be absolutely making a mess of his pants, to be honest with you, Taz, because that's what he wants, and that's what's good for business. So I think it's been really interesting to see the facilities of the Chiefs, the facilities of the Niners. I'm sure you have something to say about that.
I know I'm not very happy about it, but all I hope is that she doesn't get on her jet on time when she flies back from Tokyo, whether it's tonight, tomorrow, because it's not nice, but it's also very nice, because we've been talking about this off air, and sort of the hype around the Super Bowl is crazy in comparison to the last few. Obviously, I don't know, it feels a bit different. I don't know whether it's because the Niners are involved, quite a loud sort of fan base when it comes to, but I think part of it is this whole Taylor Swift hype. And I think especially it seems like it's brought a lot of new fans into this sport, a lot of, you'd argue, sort of girlfriends and friends and sort of things like that that are fans of Taylor Swift, but now thinking, you know what, I might stay up and watch this Super Bowl because she's involved in it in some capacity, and we know she can be involved in a capacity. And that's great, especially in the UK. We've seen that around us, a lot of the places are booked out completely to watch the Super Bowl, which in previous years, people, won't want to stay up till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning in the UK when they've got work on a Monday morning. But to see that people have had the time off and are paying out to go to these sort of events and things, it's so nice. And I think it just shows how far American football is traveling, especially coming into Europe, and how they want to expand into Europe. And I think that fever is catching a little bit, don't you think?
Absolutely, mate. And I think the Super Bowl is a game that has got something for everyone. Also, like for the avid football fan, they've got the game, the two best teams, the AFC versus the NFC. You've got that. We've also got the halftime show as well, which brings a lot of people to it. And a lot of people just watch it for the halftime show. Half an hour of us show is going to either drag or it's going to be brilliant. But I can't imagine it's going to be fantastic. I think last year's halftime show was brilliant, and the year before that, when it was Eminem, was superb. And I think that's why we're not too impressed about this one. But he's bringing out Alicia Keys, I think they've said. So that could be something.
That'd be quite good. Big fan of that.
So a bit different. But I think the influx of Taylor Swift has brought a lot of people to it. And as much as those kind of down the middle, diehard football fans would say, no, we don't want it. We don't want it. It's good for the league and it's good for everyone. That there's more eyes on it. There's more people coming to watch the sport. And that's only a good thing. For a person who watches the sport from the UK, we want more games in the UK. And how do we do that? You've got to expand it. You've got to make it more accessible. Obviously, we've seen that they've now got a game in Madrid, which is so exciting. A little sunny away day, I think, Taron, is needed in September time.
Definitely, mate. Definitely.
But also, I think more people know about the sport now. More eyes are on the game. It's like, I'd say to my girlfriend, oh, do you know, are you going to watch the Super Bowl? And she'll go, oh, is that the sport that Taylor Swift's boyfriend plays? Yes, it is. And now you've got that link there. And that's, it's been a struggle in my house. And I think you'll vouch for that as well. But I just think the more eyes, the better. And the sport is growing massively, especially in the UK. And I think it's come at a time, Taron, that the All Out Brits is going like that. And so as is the trajectory of the sport in the UK. So I think we are responsible for the growth.
We are trendsetters, mate. I think by having more people from the UK like NFL, it validates our waffle a bit more as well. So, we're on board with it, pal. We're all on board with it, I think.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of waffle that's spoken on this podcast. So if you like your pancakes, keep coming back for more.
The pancake day soon as well. So you know what? Skip the waffles, go straight for the pancakes. Forget that.
Yeah, mate, that's the
moving on swiftly though. Yeah,
bad segment.
That was really bad. That absolutely battered us. That did.
Yeah.
Moving on. The last comment we'll sort of talk about in the Super Bowl is, what does this sort of win and what does this game mean for both these franchises? Obviously, from a Niners perspective, this is the be all and end all, because we look at this team, we look at the players in it that have been here before but haven't really got to the very end of it. We look at the players that could be moving out and then retiring. Trent Williams, he said he's going to play a bit longer, but you never know. It's a tough position to be playing in the D-line. It really is, and same in the O-line as well. But for the Niners, I think they've got to win this one. That Super Bowl window is closing. At some point, players need to be paid, and at some point, the system gets figured out, and at some point, the system stops working. And they've talked about a system quarterback, but I think a lot of it is the fact that it's the people around him that have really made that system come together. It wasn't the quarterback. It was that system around him. And I think you can't replace some of those players in there, which I think the Chiefs have sort of got away with because they traded away their system wide receiver for big sort of bucks, but they've managed to get by, but aren't as sort of dynamic that we saw them to be. And I think that's a big thing for them. Do they win this? And you turn around and say, well, who can you put this on? There's two players here who have been through all of this, and they're incredible players. But at the same time, they've got bit parts all around them, and it still works. So arguably, you'd look at the Chiefs and say it's more of a better system the Niners got going on, because they keep winning every single time with people who are rookies or sort of unproven players, and it works out quite well for them. So who do you think this works out better for if they win the Super Bowl here?
I think it has. The 49ers have to win this game. Like you say, they have to win it. That Super Bowl window is very, very quickly closing. Now, I don't think you mind letting players like Ayuk go when you've got that ring, when you've got a championship behind you. But when you're still chasing that and you're still chasing the glory, you can't let those players leave for cheap. You cannot do that. So it's really, really important that now Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan stand up and they win this game for the city. Now, obviously, you mentioned about the system quarterback in Brock Purdy, and I don't really think he's being that much of a system quarterback. Now, you've seen what happens when Sam Darnold kind of jumps in. Interestingly as well, Taron, Sam Darnold is the only quarterback from the 2018 draft class to head to a Super Bowl, and that's with players like Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Josh Rosen, all people who were quite high on the draft board, and the only one that's got there is a backup QB for Brock Purdy, which I think is really, really interesting. If the Chiefs win this, on the other hand, incredible. It's been a fantastic run. But why is that? Because they've got Patrick Mahomes. They've got 15 who throws the ball. That's all they need. An elite quarterback on that team has been sensational. I think they've been really, really clever with the cap space as well. They've invested a lot in the offense with Patrick Mahomes. But around that, he's got a couple of good pieces. He's got Travis Kelce. And then that's, for me, I think that's about it, really, of those elite level pieces. But they've invested in areas where they don't have to rely on Patrick Mahomes. In defense, they've invested in some very, very, very talented players. And I think that's going to be something that if they lose this game, I don't think it matters as much as if the Niners lose it, because they'll just keep coming back because they've got 15. Whereas the Niners, they've got 13, but he's only going to be on a cheap contract for a short amount of time, a couple more years yet. So we're going to see what happens with him. But I think for me, if I was going to call who's going to win the Super Bowl, I think it's hard not to back Patrick Mahomes. I don't know what you think, Taron. If you were to give, here's the ultimate question: who is going to win Super Bowl 58?
It's got to be the San Francisco 49ers. I think the time is right. I think if you're ever going to attack this Chiefs team, the time is now. I think this Niners team are ready. They need to show up, though. I can't be dealing with a second half comeback. My heart won't be able to take it. I will be way too many drinks and food pieces deep to be sat there worrying about whether Brock's going to throw this into the hands of a Chiefs D lineman. Or just, I can't be dealing with it. But I believe in the Niners. I think everything seems to be pointing to the fact that Shanahan's happy with this team. He's got everything he's ever asked for. If he can't deliver now, I don't know when he can, because it really does concern me that, you know, if we face the Ravens, there's no way I would ever think that we'd sort of come out with a result. I'd say in my own heart I knew we were going to win, but at the same time, I wouldn't feel confident in outwardly saying it, because that Ravens team was disgusting and what they did to us was disgusting. But this Chiefs team, we've played them many a times before. We can expect certain things from Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, and we've seen a game plan this season from different teams in their own division who have managed to sort of stifle them in a sense. And I think the Niners can stifle them with better players. It's just a matter of how they progress the ball down the field. Are they smart with it? Are they stupid with it? And that's down to Kyle Shanahan. He's just got to stick with what he's doing. But I think the Niners are coming away with the Super Bowl.
Well, interestingly, Taron, Kyle Shanahan is 6-0 when he's favoured in the playoffs. And the team that wears white, which is going to be the San Francisco 49ers, is 16-19 in obviously the last 19 Super Bowls. And every time that the San Francisco 49ers have won the NFC Championship against a team with a shade of blue in their logo, they've gone on to win the Super Bowl. Obviously, they play the Detroit Lions, who have a shade of blue. With all that being said, though, Taron, Mahomes is a dog. Mahomes is a dog. He's never lost in Vegas. He's 6-0 in Vegas. And I just think he's got something in him. He's an absolute dog. I saw another crazy stat as well. There's some crazy stuff going on at the Super Bowl. Have you looked at the moon yet, Taron, in the Super Bowl?
I have not. Tell me about the moon, mate.
So it's on Sunday, so tomorrow, there's going to be a waxing crescent moon.
Wow.
The Chiefs are 19-1 when they're playing under a waxing crescent moon. So I think that's all that needs to be said. The Kansas City Chiefs are winning Super Bowl 58. Give me a Travis Kelce touchdown. Give me a anytime Isaiah Pacheco touchdown. Give me a Kelce MVP and give me another ring for 15 Patrick Mahomes. The Kansas City Chiefs cement their dynasty in Vegas. That's my call.
I never took you to be a crystals and a tarot girly, but wow, you're getting into it now, aren't you?
Mate, there's been some mad statistics that have been thrown out there this weekend. I think that is one of those crazy ones. So I forget who I watched a TikTok video about that, but whoever said that, you've done your research and you've done some crazy stuff, bro.
I think on the Niners side, the thing that's really got people talking is the fact that if you look at that Broncos team that Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan's father, was involved in, and also Mr. McCaffrey's father was involved in. They want it together as a pairing, and they're saying, well, now Shanahan's got his pairing. But also, I think Brian Grease was involved in that Denver Broncos side and is now coaching with the 49ers as well. And I think there's someone else too. So it's a bit crazy. I just can't look past the fact that if we weren't meant to win it, we wouldn't be there, because it's been a long few games. But I'm going to be howling at the moon trying to put off this Chiefs team. I'm going to have to do something because, God, it's going to be a tough game.
I think it's going to be really exciting, though. It's going to be really electric. There's going to be plays on both sides of the ball. And one time that I cannot wait to bark at the moon along with you. It's going to be a good game. It's going to be a lot of fun. And the next day is going to be tough. So we'll see how we do. See if we manage to do a podcast the day after, Taron, because that will be, yeah.
I'll tell you what, I'm here for it. You know what? I think we've got to give the people what they want. We'll get some content out on the night, get some TikTok lives going, get some TikToks going, get some abuse flowing. That's what we want from this Super Bowl. We want some raw reactions, because I think that sells it for the people, I think.
I reckon we need like a little GoPro on you. Do you like a little Francis Borgwine where it's like on your head?
Maybe. It's not a pretty angle from up there, I'll tell you that much, though. I don't think it would run quite well.
It's barely a pretty angle from down here, bro, so I don't think it'll make too much of a difference. I think it's going to be a good game. Yeah. It's going to be a good game, good company, good food, plenty of booze, and most of all, it's going to be a game that we're going to have fun at. I don't know what I'm saying, bro. Just fucking wrap this shit up.
I can tell you what, the excitement's getting to Mr. Greenwood here, because I've never seen him so happy and ready to just abuse me come as soon as that first kickoff tomorrow evening. It's going to be great, but also what's quite sad is after that, we're done, mate. We're done. Our personality goes, our relationship goes, everything goes, the podcast goes. And what do? We hibernate until September.
I think this is the only thing that's been keeping our relationship alive, Taron, is this pod. It's been dragging our
I think it's the only thing that created a relationship. Before that, I couldn't stand you, pal.
No, and I still can't, to be honest with you, mate. I think the toxicity that's on this podcast is absolutely horrendous. And it's something that we really need to change it going into the next season. If we make it to the next season, that is something that needs to be said. How are we going to keep the views engaged, Sharon? I think there's got to be a lot that we have to learn.
We can't just disappear, because they're going to miss us, mate, surely.
Yeah, they are. We've grown exponentially. It's been a superb success, really, all that Brits podcast. Yeah. And that success has got to keep going. What do you think, sir?
Well, I think what we're going to have to do, as we've seen this influx of Brits, we've seen this influx of more and more NFL fans, I think we have to explain it to the people, because the amount of people who would like to follow NFL but have no clue about it because it's confusing. But you know what? In the off season, we're going to help everybody out. We'll explain it every term you need to know. We're going to go through boot camp. We're going to have our own all-out Brits boot camp. You got to join us. You've got to be ready for the drills, because by the end of it, you're going to be ready. And by week 1 of the 2024 season, I expect everyone to be there in their 49ers jersey, ready to kick off for a new season, because you've learned it all on the All Out Brits podcast. That's what we pray for. That's what we hope for. And if it doesn't come to fruition, well, they can stick to watching whatever sport they do anyway.
Yeah, go back to bloody field hockey and tennis.
Yeah, field hockey. Watch whatever you want.
Yeah, that's it. What people are going to be doing, really, they're going to be in the huddle ahead in September, ahead of the first inaugural red zone of the season. They're going to go break. Then you're going to hear Patrick Mahomes go, here we go. And away we head for the season. And I cannot wait for next season, bro. But there's still one more game, one more opportunity for one team to get a ring. And I cannot wait, bro. Let's wrap it up.
We cannot wait. But you know what? You don't have to wait, because we will be back. We're putting out as many videos as we can. Don't worry. We'll be back. You'll see us. Keep an eye on all our social pages. keep supporting the podcast, and don't worry. Football, American football is a very simple game. They run around for 60 minutes and the Chiefs get whatever decision they want at the end of it. And you'll see that come Sunday. But don't worry, we've got a secret plan as the Niners. So thank you, everybody, for joining us this week. I hope you enjoy the Super Bowl. Make sure you stay up and watch it if you're in the UK. And make sure you don't have any fires or fights when you're in America watching it. And we shall see you next time on the All Out Brits podcast. And as always, make sure you come back for more, because that's what we do on this podcast. We keep sending you back for more. We'll see you next time. Thank you, everybody.
Peace.